One of the biggest studio acquisitions in video game history was made official this week as Xbox and Bethesda celebrate Microsoft's successful purchase of ZeniMax Media. When the ink dries on the $7.5 billion deal, legendary franchises like Doom, Fallout, and the Elder Scrolls will carry on under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella. Not surprisingly, since the acquisition was announced last year, internet debates have spread like wildfire as fans and critics alike argue over whether or not games like Starfield and the next Wolfenstein will now be exclusive solely on Microsoft platforms. Now, we finally have confirmation via the official Xbox blog that with the addition of the Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PC, and Game Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players. Meaning, it looks like some Bethesda titles won't be exclusive. Microsoft has shown their willingness to support multiple and competing platforms with their continued support of Minecraft across Sony and Nintendo consoles, so it should be interesting to see which Bethesda games get the exclusive treatment. Now, we could jump into that discourse with about 200 or 300 videos, but honestly, those new games and other Bethesda flagship titles are probably at least a year away. Instead, today we want to focus a little more on another story that might indicate what we can expect from Xbox Game Studios in the more immediate future. One of the biggest critiques for Xbox in the past has been its lack of killer first-party titles, and with the launch of the Xbox Series X, it's been more of the same. However, there's been rumblings for a little while now that not all the major titles coming to Xbox this year have been announced. It's largely been overshadowed by the Xbox Bethesda deal, but the notion was confirmed earlier this week when Microsoft's Director of Program Management for Xbox, Jason Ronald, was asked on a podcast about his most anticipated Xbox game for 2021, and he excitedly replied, "Not all games that are releasing this year have been announced." Now, we might not be able to guess which games Ronald was referring to exactly, but through the power of deduction, we can certainly come up with a good guess about who's making them, and then we could have a better idea of what those games might be. Okay, let's jump into it. For starters, it feels unlikely that one of the unannounced Xbox games coming this year would be a Bethesda Studios game, given the acquisition is just coming together and most of their studios are already accounted for. But let's do a quick roll call anyway. We know that id Software just released Doom Eternal and Arcane is finishing up Deathloop for PS5, so anything announced from them would just be starting production in 2021, not ending. Starfield, Ghostwire Tokyo, Indiana Jones, and the Elder Scrolls Online are all known quantities or announced already, so that rules out some of the major players right there as well. However, there is a slim possibility one of the unannounced Xbox games could be Wolfenstein 3. It's been 3 years since Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus came out, and it will be 2 years since Youngblood released when summer hits. So there's a chance, but there's also a chance the pandemic has delayed Wolfenstein 3 internally, pushing it into 2022. The only other Bethesda studio that might have something unannounced in the works is Roundhouse Studios. Back in 2019, Bethesda bought the entirety of Human Head Studios, the makers of the original Prey from 2006 and the Rune series, and then renamed that studio to Roundhouse Studios internally. So they could have an epic RPG or immersive sim somewhere in the works. Okay, that covers all of the Bethesda game studios, and now with those out of the way, that leaves 14 other Xbox game studios that were already acquired or owned before the ZeniMax acquisition. Starting with the easy ones, we know that 343 Industries is working on Halo Infinite, the Coalition has Gears 6 in the works, and even if Mojang has time to stop supporting all the current versions of Minecraft, Minecraft Dungeons just came out last year, which probably rules them out for an unannounced project in 2021. Undead Labs was confirmed to be working on State of Decay 3 last summer, the Initiative was announced to be working on a Perfect Dark reboot, and Rare has its hands full with Sea of Thieves updates, as well as an all-new game called Everwild. World's Edge is working with Relic on Age of Empires 4, Ninja Theory has Project Mara and Hellblade 2, Turn 10 is working on Forza Motorsport, and we know that Playground Games is working on the new Fable, which had a big reveal last year. Now, there is some question around whether Playground Games was staffed up enough to handle both Fable and the fan-anticipated Forza Horizon 5, but rumors around the game and Forza Horizon's previous release history make it seem like a pretty good possibility. Okay, that leaves us with 4 studios that all have unannounced projects. In Exile Entertainment, originally known for The Bard's Tale and more recently known for Wasteland 3, haven't said much about their next project, but they did confirm in a tweet that they would be using Unreal 5 for it. Who knows what this could be, but In Exile has been spending a lot of time with top-down strategy games like Wasteland, so maybe this could be potential studio for a new Halo Wars project. Next up, Obsidian has a number of projects already announced, like Grounded, which is still in early access, and Avowed, which is a Skyrim-like first-person RPG, but apparently there is one unannounced project being led by Josh Sawyer, the design director behind Fallout New Vegas and the Pillars of Eternity games. There's been a fair amount of rumors around In Outer Worlds 2, but regardless, you could probably bet whatever the game is, it will have some pretty significant RPG elements to it given Sawyer's history. Compulsion Games is the third of the 4 studios that doesn't have an announced project. You might remember them as the developers behind We Happy happy few. The game originally evoked a serious BioShock aesthetic, but players were dismayed to learn the game was more about navigating procedurally generated environments than a handcrafted narrative like BioShock had become known for. As a result, Compulsion tried to meet players' expectations by adjusting the game mid-development, but ultimately they failed. However, since then, Compulsion was acquired by Microsoft, moved into a huge new studio space, and have since been hiring up extensively for an unannounced project. Based on interviews with the studio's founder, it's very unlikely this game would be We Happy Few 2, but maybe Microsoft is providing Compulsion with the necessary resources to create an experience that more closely evokes the feelings from that first game trailer. It could be interesting. Okay, the last studio we haven't talked about that has an unannounced game is Double Fine. We know they are still working hard on Psychonauts 2, but the internal structure of the company being divided up into smaller teams makes it hard to predict what else they might have up their sleeve. However, during a podcast with Kind of Funny Games, Tim Schafer did say their next big game wouldn't be a sequel, and more specifically, he said, ever since 2012, I've been looking backwards a little bit, and I'm like, okay, from now on, after Psychonauts 2, for a long time, we're just gonna do original and new stuff. Brand new, shiny, new stuff. The legacy of Double Fine is super fascinating on its own, and they have surely created a number of memorable and unique titles over the years, so if they really are spinning up something brand new and shiny, it'd be near impossible to guess what it could be, but I can't help shake the feeling that Double Fine would be the perfect studio to work on a new Viva Pinata game. Alright, that's it. That's all the Xbox game studios, including the new additions from Bethesda and their potential projects. Speculating is a ton of fun, but luckily with an Xbox event coming up on March 23rd, we might not have to wait too much longer to find out what cool new games Xbox has in the works. Regardless of where you fall in the argument about which Bethesda games in the future are going to be exclusive or not, it looks like Microsoft has finally bolstered up their first-party studios, and we might even have a few games to play until Starfield comes out. Thanks for watching, and if you like videos like this one, feel free to leave us a like or consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.